it's no secret that a lot of programmers, developers are questioning their career choices. Personally, Bogdan and I are getting messages from people asking themselves, hey, should I still do this? I have a mental block with everything that's going on. It's being a programmer still worth it? Again, I believe programmers are making a huge mistake, but I do think they have a point. These people really thinking really, hey, is it worth it for me to be a developer in 2025 and beyond? And here are the 7 reasons I think why programmers are walking away from software dev and why I believe they're making a terrible mistake. If you don't know us, my name is Dragoș. Bogdan here in the call. He's my brother and co-founder at the Senior Dev. In the last 5 years or so, we trained over 300 students, helping them level up to senior and get new positions. So the first reason programmers are walking away from software development, it's the AI paranoia. A few days ago, we've seen Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying that they are building a machine to automate a mid-level developer job, and all the companies are working on that. We've seen Dev in AI, right, coming out and saying, hey, we're going to automate you straight together. And I think this belief that AI will replace software engineers sometime in the near future is making a lot of people quit. Bogdan, what would you tell developers? You worked a lot with AI.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, Zuckerberg came out and said they're building a AI to basically effectively be a mid-level engineer that works independently and extends the code base. They have around 30,000 mid-level, like under senior engineers at Meta. So we're talking about a lot of people. To be very honest, we need to change from AI to LLM. That's what we're talking about. And, large language model, it's very far away from being an engineer. The engineering word comes from Latin, and it means thinking, right? Heuristically coming up with solutions. And I do not think AI is capable of doing that. I worked with AI, several AI tools full time. So I added them fully to my workflow. I recommend everybody to do the same. There is this saying where they say AI won't take your job. It will be somebody working with AI that will do that. I'm not sure I 100% agree with that either, because what I've seen is that AI actually makes my code slightly worse, especially when we're talking about a lot of code. Go away from the lead code snippet, right? Because AI is really good at solving this lead code kind of hacker kind of problems, and go to a full code base, and you'll find yourself in a big mess if you are relying too much on AI.
Reason number 2, programmers are quitting software engineering. It's competition at local and global. And I think we've seen this in the last couple of years, months, especially after the COVID, when the world went remotely. Right now, programmers feel like they are competing with the whole world. Like not only competing locally, you are competing now at national level, right? Because you have all these remote jobs, everyone in your country can apply to them. And then you have all the outsourcing going on and all the remote international jobs, right? So I feel like talking to programmers, many of them, they have this pressure where they feel like the bar has raised. They feel like they're competing with everyone else that's screaming out there on social media how good they are, how many side projects they've done. And it gets to a point where some people are so intimidated by this competition that they quit altogether. Bogdan, you've been in the game for more than 10 years. What would you tell someone that's getting intimidated by competition?
So when it comes to local and global, it's very different, right? So the local competition is mostly due to boot camps and a lot of people getting into software dev, and then the global competition comes from the whole remote work and the fact that everything went remote. And hey, if you can do your job from Italy, then why don't we completely outsource it to somebody that's cheaper all over to Asia? So on the local competition, yes, there's been a few more people getting into software dev. There's all the boot camps, but for the boot camps to actually produce productive programmers, it takes a lot longer than they estimate. And what you have, it's a lot of entry-level job seeker. Like it's even not junior level knowledge. It's job seeker knowledge because they cannot even qualify for most times for a junior. Those people will have to upskill and maybe they become junior developers. I would not worry about that. It takes a lot of dedication and effort to become really good at software dev. And from what we see regarding a global competition, yes, people think outsourcing, it saves up money. For most big software companies, most outsourcing efforts were negative. They think it saves up money, but it doesn't in the long run. It doesn't in the delays. It doesn't in the quality you get. So think about the best software you use. It's usually made in the US, where developers make the biggest amount of cash. How come it still makes sense to buy software from the US if they are the most expensive ones? Well, it's because the value outweighs the cost. And you should focus as a developer on creating more value for the company you work in terms of engineering skills, system design skills, communication skills, not soft skills, okay? We're talking about communicating hard technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders. That's not like, emotional intelligence. We are talking about somebody that very well knows their stuff and it's able to get people together, ship a product.
It is true that things are a bit more complicated than they used to be. And it makes sense. There was a lot of free money in the software engineering market. Every startup was raising money, creating, fake jobs or jobs that were not they did not make a lot of sense for the economy, right? And this is an invitation for you to get better. And I remember this quote that we always tell our students. It's, don't wish things were easier, wish you were better. On to point number 3, which is job insecurity. And I don't blame people. We've seen a lot of layoffs, all the things that we mentioned, the AI, more competition, companies hiring, then kicking off people. A lot of developers that I talked to, they had jobs that, they get a job, then they stay there about 3 months, then the project is over, they get another gig, it's like 6 months. And a job that used to be a cornerstone, I remember back then, 5 years ago, developer was like the safe job. You would, get the job and stay there forever, get the mortgage, and your family would do fine. Right now, we don't know what the future holds. At any point, you could get laid off and you don't know if you're going to find a job. So job insecurity, it's one of the reasons that's pushing developers away. And I don't blame them. It is true that the environment is a bit more unstable. Layoffs have been happening to salespeople first. If we look at the number of layoffs in San Francisco and all over the world, you'll see that the first people to get laid off were not the engineers. So the job insecurity aspect, when the economy is not doing that well, it's something that affects everybody, not only software devs. So it's not a reason for you to throw in the towel and say, I'm done with this, because whatever you will do next will also have job insecurity.
Job insecurity was there for a very long time for developers, and it was in the shape of, what if all my skills are obsolete tomorrow? What if the framework of choice is not relevant tomorrow? And now it's in the form of AI. Now, what if AI can write code? Or it used to be the boot camps, right? What if all these boot camp people, are going to come in and then there's no more jobs? So it's a bit of a scarcity thinking. Yes, you should be worried to a certain healthy level about your security, but the only security you have is your skills, your ability to deliver, and, your professional image. That's your resume and your LinkedIn profile nowadays. You don't need open source. You don't need portfolios. Seniors don't need that. And so the only security you get is, hey, if I lose my job tomorrow, I have enough time, I can find another one in a reasonable time span. And you should always, we have this saying at the senior dev that only the paranoid survive. So a certain amount of fear, it's healthy. Now that fear shouldn't paralyze you. You should put your energy into becoming better and into selling yourself better.
Do not be worried, be prepared, right? Turn that worry into preparation and keep an eye on the market at all times, right? Do your homework. Reason number 4, developers are leaving software development. It's crappy jobs, bad jobs, shitty jobs. I've seen it with many developers these days. They get, something happens, they get laid off, or a company, they choose to leave a company and then they get another job, and it turns out to not be any better than the last one, right? They face all the hard stuff developers have to deal with, right? One developer I was chatting with told me that he's got a new job, and for the first 6 months, he's been spending a lot of time on the weekends. He had a newborn son, couldn't spend time with the baby, couldn't be there for his family, just for him to deliver at work, right? And what happened at the end? He got fired anyway. And that right there made him question altogether if this is the career for him. And I see a lot of developers are getting disheartened by the amount of crappy software jobs that they are being offered. I don't blame them.
To be very honest, the best jobs are reserved for the top 20% in any market. And if you go to, you mentioned doctors before, I think, what is it? Like 80% of doctors are burnout because of the nature of the sector. Go talk to the lawyers, the top ones. To make the best out of a developer job, it takes a lot of skills. It takes skills to manage expectations from product managers. It takes confidence in your own skills. And they will, there is a part of the business that will try to, in the word, I don't like the word, but squeeze you out in terms of, putting more hours, putting longer hours. I've been there myself. I had one of those, or at least 2 of those in the past, where, the tech stack wasn't great and we would have to put up with extra hours because we didn't have monitoring in place. CI/CD wasn't working. And so you gotta understand that, you gotta use everything to get better again. And then use the fact that you do have income to keep preparing and never stop chasing that better job. But what I saw a lot of developers we work with, and they've been in those shitty jobs, they just think this is it. This is software dev. It's just, it just sucks. It's just a lot of long hours, and they don't really know why. And the reality is, first of all, know that there are good places out there. There are places where you have work-time life balance. There are places where you don't have to build 100 features that nobody will use and put, extra time for that. So don't give up and don't think this is it.
Also, don't get the job you don't like. Right? Those jobs exist because someone is willing to do them. And if they won't find anybody, they will try to offer better conditions. On to point number 5, mediocre pay and no raises. Very big point in the last few years. A lot of people were afraid of how the market is, all the things that we already chatted about. And a lot of developers are staying put. They're not interviewing. They're not going out there. They're not taking chances because, hey, take no risk. I'm stable here. What's happening? The hiring managers know that, and they're taking advantage of the situation by not putting a lot on the table. Right? They're not offering them promotions. And as long as they cannot leave the company, they're like, okay, you get, this is what you get. See you next year, right? We're not doing great. And, why pay a developer more when they can do the same job for the same money. Right? This is one reason why people are like, hey, I'm not progressing in my life. It's been 5 years. I'm almost at the same pay. I haven't got a promotion in years. And I don't blame them, but I think, again, the antidote to this is not quitting. If whatever obstacle you find in your career and life, your strategy is to quit, to run away from that, you'll never fix those problems, right? So what you have to do instead, and what a lot of developers should do instead, is to say, hey, enough is enough. Let me do something about it. I cannot expect my boss, I cannot expect my company to take care of me. I need to, what do I need to do? Is it my skills? Is it my resume? I need to go out there to the market and I need to provide for myself. And this is a mindset. And I can tell you in my career, I used to expect a lot. Personally, I used to expect the company to pay me for my training, my testing. I remember I was always begging my boss to pay for a testing course. They never did that. And then I had to pay it myself. But for the beginning of my career, I was really expecting the world to do things for me. And we have to get back to a point of, and really understand that the world is not there to provide for you, and it owns you nothing. So if you want something, you gotta go get it. You have to go for it. Bogdan, what would you add on the mediocre pay?
What we do know from the last 4 years working with developers is that the average raise, if you get very lucky, it's no more than 5% of your gross annual pay. Whereas people switching jobs usually get over 20 to 30%. Of course, switching jobs, it's always a risk, but it's unfortunate that in this sector, you sometimes have to switch to get a raise. That's the reality of it. And what we see a lot of people doing is, they look at the market, they look at AI, and they get very scared and they play defense. And they're like, well, I'm just gonna stay put. You cannot stay put into the job market. You have to play offense. You have to play the game trying to win, trying to get better, and you cannot be afraid. As you mentioned, you cannot expect your company to provide that raise or that career plan that you had in mind or where you should be in 2 years. You got to take ownership of that and you say, okay, what can we do? Every year that you coast and you just, stay put, it's a year you lose. Because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Exactly, Bogdan. On to point number 6, burnout and mental health. If I were to identify the emotion that most developers I talk to these days have, it's anxiety, then burnout, and then just a negative look about the future. And we will talk about this in point number 7, about the future. But what do we do about burnout? What do we do about mental health, Bogdan, in this situation?
So it definitely comes as a result of everything we mentioned before. You have this job insecurity combined with not being happy at your current job, combined with, I don't know if I can actually switch, combined with, everybody's getting laid off and I can code. And all that makes people go around with just anxiety. And that will, you cannot last too long. Like how long can you go on with all this in your head? This is usually the symptom, but it's not the sickness. And so you want to find out, okay, from everything we said before, what is causing the burnout? Is it the lack of progress? Is it, if you're job searching, you're much more prone to burnout. Job seekers are, it's a constant burnout. Sometimes, and I know it sounds very cheesy, you just gotta have to push through it because until you solve the cause of that, you'll feel a bit burnout. Sometimes we see people that are too focused on the negative. They have a negative mindset or they're way too competitive or they eliminated everything in their life that's not their career, which is usually a bad strategy.
That's the thing. Mental health and burnout, you need a holistic solution for this. Like Bogdan said, you need to identify what's the cause. It can be many different things. But as a rule of thumb, what we see right now, it's people have no balance in their life. They have nothing else, just their career. And if, a professional failure, like, getting fired means it's the end of my life. That's all my worth as a software engineer, as a person. And the other thing would be, there's a lot of anxiety. So if I were to give you one advice, it's just limit your exposure to all this, Twitter, all the stuff on YouTube. A lot of it is just these influencers, they're just repeating what other people are saying. There's a lot of talking, but not a lot of doing. So if you feel like you have anxiety, go into nature, limit your time with the computer, do something outside and take a break. Okay. If you really want to, just a quick tip to get back in the game. On to final point, number 7, why developers are quitting software engineering is because they have no clear path forward, right? So I see people and they are lost. A lot of software engineers, and I'm not talking about the juniors, because in the past it would be like the fresh graduates that, you can't blame them. They haven't seen a lot in the industry. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's possible. But now I see like senior level engineers that are very much lost. They cannot plan for the future. They're like, I don't know, maybe AI. People are like, the average job security, when I am asking them that they think they have, you ask people, hey, how confident you feel that you will still be with the company you're at right now? And the average is 6 months to a year. Like, they don't trust the market. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if AI will take their job or not. So I think this is the main problem, the main issue why people quit. Because if you have nothing to go for, if there's no future in the sector, then why be here? It's just bad for you, right? Bogdan, what would you tell developers who feel like, there's no clear path forward for them and they are thinking to do something else?
What we've seen over the years, and we've been doing this again for like 11 years now. I've seen people taking a sabbatical, opening a coffee shop, and then coming back to software dev 2 years later with their skills slightly worse than when they left. And the reality is you got into this because of a reason. You're probably good at it, but you need to persist. And even the people, in our mentorship program, even myself, there were always several points when I talked about quitting. I talked, the average McDonald's employee has a better life than me. There were many points when this happened along the journey. And that's okay. That's part of the journey, but you should never quit because you're going to lose all the investment you put so far. Again, the world moves from software. We're moving towards more remote. I do not think there's anything you can do without software. And if you need software, you need parameters. Yes, AI can write code. Building software, it's a lot more than writing code. Even if building software would be drag and drop, you'd still need an engineer. Okay. Like imagine we will do just Wix and WordPress plugins. It will get so complex. Right? That's why you need developers even in Salesforce where they try to do everything drag and drop and it's a disaster and it didn't work out. Don't quit. Don't go and, follow a sabbatical because we've seen so many people just coming back to it 2 years later.
One thing I would tell to people that feel lost and feel like they don't have no clear path forward in the industry, developers that feel like the industry doesn't have a future, developers that they don't have a future in the industry. It's really take some time. It's beginning of the year, 15 January 2025. Take some time and write down, where would you like to be? Think about the future. Think about what would it take to be there. Dare to dream a bit. We do this exercise every quarter and almost every year with the software engineers we coach. But the most important is that you have a vision, something to go for. Because if not, the job, everything is just too hard to wake up. Why not just watch Netflix? Why not just fall into complacency and procrastination? It's easy to be influenced by other people and by all the noise on the internet when you don't have a clear path forward for yourself. With that being said, folks, keep up the good work. We're going to be here for you for the whole year. The senior dev will be here. We do have a very clear path forward. We are not worried about the market. We are working every day for you to become better, for our students to become better, and for us to become better. If you are looking for some tangible resources for you to get better as a software engineer, check out the comments. You're going to see the free technical assessment that we put together, and you will see tons of helpful videos in this channel if you are interviewing right now as a software engineer or if you're simply looking to get better.